I'm not an evangelistic person. I'm not going to go out on the street and tell you that you need to accept Jesus Christ, okay?
No, there's no doubt about it. The Judeo-Christian beliefs are very, very similar. A lot of people don't realize that the difference that separates, let's say, the higher Anglican Church from Catholicism are only three things. One is papal infallibility, which only came in 1917. The second one is transubstantiation, whether you want to consider that the body and blood of Christ is a metaphor or it's the actual body and blood of Christ. And the third thing is the Marian doctrine, which was brought in to convert the Gnostics of Asia Minor in the 3rd and 4th century. And I've seen as well, even I've lived in sort of 8 or 9 Islamic countries, and the closeness and similarities between even the Shiite beliefs and the Christian beliefs are very, very similar. I mean, they have the Karbala Shiites who give rise to, I suppose, most of the beliefs in Tehran at the moment in Iran. They have the same saints as we do. St. John the Baptist and Mary as, sort of part of their books as well. They have Jesus Christ.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It really is. And so you get to see that there are so many likenesses that you just end up loving everybody for who they are.
I'll tell you a little story. I used to work as a doctor in Baghdad, and this night there was a party on in the British Consul / British Embassy, and I wanted to go to it, but everybody reminded me, it's your turn in the hospital, you've been away for the last 4 weeks on weekends, so you're on. And they were bringing in this patient. This is before the Gulf War sort of started. This would have been in the early years of 1990, when Nelson Mandela actually would have been released from prison in Cape Town in that period. This night, they brought in a soldier from the Rashid military hospital to our hospital. So we would have had a Western hospital with Irish, American, and other European doctors and nurses. And so there's a tertiary referral centre for most of the things that they couldn't do themselves. Renal transplants, maybe heart transplants. So it would have been a big, centre that way. And they were bringing in a young soldier who's 24, who's transferred to us. He had double heart failure. And I was saying, guys, come on, this is my party night. I've been looking forward to it. And they said, no, you're on this weekend. So everybody went to the party and left me practically on my own in the hospital. And about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, the patient got into a very distressed state. And I came onto the ward, and he was standing on the bed, very agitated, some of his family around him, with his drips pulled out. And I wanted to get him down to sedate him because, he certainly was delusional. And he was looking at the sort of area that I'd walked into in the hospital. Is he really looking through me? And I stepped over to one side, but I could see that he was fixated on something on the floor. And Maria, one of the girls who was translating, said, Patrick, he believes that St. John, I think it was St. John the Baptist, actually. No, it was St. John, was one of our, sort of saints as well, is there, and he's telling him if he doesn't get out of the hospital, he'll die at 8 o'clock in the morning. And the most incredible thing was he was absolutely fixated, and his mother was there in a sort of black discharge or chadron, and they wanted him to leave as well. I eventually got him sedated, and he lay down, but then all these people started arriving outside the hospital. I phoned the medical director, Joe Mullen, who's died since, and told Joe about this, and he says, you'll have to hand it over to the Iraqi director. So I got in contact with him, and at this stage about 20 families had surrounded the hospital and wanted him out of there. So the Iraqi army had to be called in, and they fired shots over the guys' heads to disperse the sort of crowd. And then we were told that a court case would have to be made, but the court case couldn't be till 9 o'clock the next morning. And if by past 8 the next morning, he did die, before the court case. Just the strength of belief, and even though I would have seen these, sort of patients as Shiite, Muslims, as a totally different religion of mine, did exactly the same saints as we did. And it just almost, bestowed upon me. We all really have the same sort of beliefs here in terms, as you said, of monotheist faith. And the interesting thing is that the family that were around him never criticized. It's almost like they knew that it would happen, like this here. They took his body, they rolled it up in a carpet, they went outside, 3 of them, they put it on the roof of a taxi, they tied it in one of those orange and white taxis that you see in, sort of the pictures of Baghdad where, people are blown up, and they drove away with it. And that was the end I ever heard of him, the patient, the family, because they normally have to be buried before, sort of sunset, and they probably had to go,
to
to a...
beautiful.